Hi there. Good evening, everybody. Want to welcome you all here to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So it's Favorites Night, and this is a show that I do every week in which I pick a list of some sort, a top 5 or a top 10 or top 20 or 25, or I do a ranking of some sorts. Today we're going to do a top 10. I guess it's sort of a top 10. I'll tell you what the title is, and then you can decide if it's a top 10 or not. So this is 10 rock songs that took the 60s by storm. Now, I kind of put them in the order that that I think had the most impact, or I think were the best, or my particular favorite. All three of that combination going on there. And I broke it down to 10 songs. I had about 25 originally, broke it down to 10. And I didn't choose more than one per group. That was the thing. So I do have 7 albums to cover these, but I'm missing 3. And one of them was a bit of a surprise. The first one actually surprised me. I was pretty sure I had bought this somewhere or something to cover this, and I didn't. So I apologize for that, but show must go on. So in the 10th spot, and we will do this from 10th to 1st, or worst to first, or least to most, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of the way I like to do it. And this is just my opinions. It doesn't mean this is the absolute way it has to be. Everybody has a different view of these songs. Some may actually hate some of these songs. Some of them, they may love them a lot more than I do. But that's the way I've decided to do it. You may have chosen a different song from this particular band as well. So that's okay. It's just how we see it. So the first song in the 10th spot is the House of the Rising Sun, done by the Animals, back from 1964. Yeah, there are other versions of this song, but I think the Animals kind of set the tone, and most people, I believe, think this is the best version of it. So that came out in 1964. So the number 9 comes from the Beach Boys, America's kind of version of the Beatles back then, back in the 60s. Very impactful band. The song that I chose off of this is a greatest hits album, Surf's Up. I don't have all of those Beach Boy albums yet, but I did buy this one because it had a lot of stuff on it I liked, and including this song, Surfin' USA, from the Beach Boys. Originally released the song back in 1963. I believe it's the earliest song on the list. So absolutely great. I love that song. I think it well represents what the Beach Boys were about. So that's my number 9. Number 8 comes from one of my favorite bands. I think this is the only song on here that's from a top 10 from my big list, and that is from The Who. I'm using this album, Meaty Beaty, Big and Bouncy. I love this album. Just about every song on it I love. But the song I've chosen is My Generation. This came out back in 1965 off the same album, My Generation. But I have this version. That's the only... I think that's the only studio... There's 2 studio albums by The Who I don't have, and that's one of them. So I decided to go with this version of it here. This was released in 1965. This album is fantastic. That track is fantastic, and I think deserves to be on this list. And it's going to come in at my number 8th spot. Okay, number 7, coming from a band that I'm just beginning to really appreciate over the last year or so. I have a couple of their studio albums. The song isn't on either of the studio albums I have. However, it is on this one, which also has the same title, Born to Be Wild. This is a kind of a greatest hits collection. Most of the stuff on here is really good, but that song stands out, and the reason I think it stands out is because it's almost an anthem. People that like this track, it's an anthem for them. Big in the motorcycle community, of course. So I chose this one. I think it had a huge impact on a lot of our culture back in its time period. Born to Be Wild from Steppenwolf, and that was released originally in 1968. Okay, we're moving on up to number 6 this time. Don't you want somebody to love? Yeah, Jefferson Airplane from 1967. I do have a couple of Jefferson Airplane albums. I do not have this one. I don't even have a Greatest Hits, which I thought maybe I might have had, but I don't. But still a fantastic tune. Definitely getting that 60s vibe. A great representation of what music was about in the 60s, that psychedelic pop, up-tempo, freedom type song. Somebody to Love, Jefferson Airplane, 1967, in the 6th spot. Now we're into the top 5. I have 4 albums for that. I'm missing the top one, actually, which will surprise you when we get there. The number 5, I think, I kind of went back and forth between 2 songs by this band, ultimately deciding on this one because I think I like this song more. A Day in the Life from the Beatles from 1967 off of their Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. The other song I had thought about was Hey Jude. Many people say Yesterday is their biggest, and I'm not going to argue with them about it, but I think this one definitely setting a tone for the Beatles' psychedelic, progressive sounds future that was moving forward from this time period. And I think this was the song that, for me, was the one that kind of established that. So A Day in the Life from the Beatles, 1967, in 5th spot. In 4th spot, from a guy who I was right into in the mid-'80s. After I kind of got out of a lot of the rock, I got into this guy quite a bit. This is the debut album by him and his cohorts, Jimi Hendrix Experience, Are You Experienced, their first album, and their very first track, Purple Haze. Very heavy, almost metal-like in some way, maybe almost like a proto-metal song. Yeah, really catchy, very different from a lot of his stuff. Yeah, he's got some other heavy stuff too, but I think this one is kind of the one that gives that feel, that drug-induced kind of psychedelic metal heavy style sound of Purple Haze. Put this in number 4. Came out in 1967 on the Are You Experience album. Next up, in the number 3, this was another band that I wasn't quite sure which song I wanted to use. I had 2 or 3 that I was thinking about, but I ultimately chose this one because I think it very much represents this band quite a bit. It could have been, there's a couple of other tracks that were really close here that I thought could have fit in, but I ultimately decided on The Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival, CCR. This was released back in 1969, so now we're at the end of the 1960s, and yeah, just a fantastic tune. Definitely, when I hear this song, the 60s come rushing into me. Okay, next up, in the number 2 spot, this band wouldn't have been on my radar at all 3 years ago, but I've warmed up to them a lot over the last 3 years, and we're talking about The Doors. This is their debut album from 1967. The song is Light My Fire. Not necessarily my favorite Doors song, but definitely one that I think really is the poster child of this album and kind of the poster child of this band, at least early on. So Light My Fire is my choice for number 2 here from 1967 on the Doors debut album. Okay, and the last track I do not have an album for, which I was surprised. I thought I had a greatest hits with it on anyways. I don't. I think it's the most impactful song from the 1960s. Kind of set the tone for this band as well. It's actually kind of a little bit different from a lot of their music, but really catchy. Really was a massive hit. Whenever I think of this band, this song comes to mind. We're going to go with I Can't Get No Satisfaction from 1965 by the Rolling Stones, and that's my choice for number 1. So I'm going to give you them all back again just so we don't just in case you came in a little bit late and missed it. And then I'll give you some of the other honorable mentions that could have been on this list that I had removed. I'll give you 5 of them. So number 1 is the Stones from 1965, I Can't Get No Satisfaction. Number 2 is Light My Fire from the Doors' debut album, 1967. Fortunate Son is number 3 from Creedence Clearwater Revival from 1969. Number 4, Purple Haze from the Jimi Hendrix Experience, Are You Experience from 1967. Number 5 is A Day in the Life by the Fab Four, the Beatles, from their Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album back in 1967. Number 6, Somebody to Love by Jefferson Airplane, 1967. Number 7 is Born to Be Wild. There you go, the Born to Be Wild from Steppenwolf, released back in 1968. 1965 produced this song from The Who, My Generation, released back in 1965, as I said. Next up, number 9, Surfin' USA by the Beach Boys, 1963. And last but not least, House of the Rising Sun from the Animals, released back in 1964. Now, some of the other songs, let me just get a drink here. Some of the other songs included a song we recently did a video on called Heart Full of Soul from the Yardbirds. Great song. I kind of like Rush's version better. I get it. I'm going to take some hits from that, but definitely was an impactful song by the Yardbirds back in 1960s. Dazed and Confused from Led Zeppelin. I think some of you would have thought Led Zeppelin would have been higher up for me. I wasn't a big fan of this particular track, but I recognized its input. I could have went with Whole Lot of Love as well, which would have been more impactful to me, but I decided to not go with that today. White Room from Cream, or he could have went with Sunshine of Your Love, but those were the tracks I considered by Cream. Piece of My Heart from Big Brother and the Holding Company. This one was one of the last ones I knocked out. I like this. I do have this album. I would have considered it, but I just thought the Animals song was just more impactful. And last but not least, Space Oddity from David Bowie. Fantastic track off of his debut album, which is now actually referred to as Space Oddity because of the other one that he released many years later of an earlier version of himself. But anyways, those are the songs I chose for tonight's list. I hope you've enjoyed this. It was kind of interesting and a little bit different and fun to do. I'm thinking that if this does reasonably well and people are enjoying it, I may do one for the 70s and then see how it goes from there. Anyways, take care. Have yourself a good day, good evening, and goodbye here from Prog Monster. And do not forget to hit the like and subscribe. And if you want, you can put your list in the comment section, or you can just talk about the albums I've talked about or anything I've said today. That would be great as well. And we'll see you all next Wednesday night for another episode of Favorites. Take care and goodbye.